Okay, so then we just have the back gallery to do. I'd say, we're, there's about a third of the show still left to do. Is Luciano Pimienta here? I know I saw him earlier.
I think he left. They left a comment saying, "Congrats to all the artists. Thank you for the invitation to participate in the show. FYI, my work is exploring shifting value systems."
Okay, and he uses the dollar or the US dollar in this particular show quite a bit. And you can see all three of his works are dealing with the monetary subject matter. This is $100 on a string. Quite a delicate piece. I can't wait to see that in person. And is Gina M here? Gina M has a show currently that we have in the Huntley Gallery in the library on the 4th floor. We reopened her show last a couple weeks ago on August 23rd, and she created this work. I don't believe I've seen her here today. But she is referencing, I know she was very affected about the last year and a half and the last 4 years, 5 years, and dealing with, the political upheaval. And she's referencing here the 45 is in reference to the 45th president. And all of the words there's a lot of anger in her words and her choices. And I know that she's very humorous too, but she also is pretty angry about a lot of things that are going on, like many of us are. The reference to World War III, climate change is also there. And interestingly enough, this reference to the sky sort of looking stormy also looks an awful lot like someone's hairdo that I know she also likes to make a lot of fun of. I don't know if that is accurate, but I do think that there's possibility that there's a reference to that there somewhere. But I don't want to speak for her in case that's not true, or maybe I'm just making an observation and reading a lot into it. So let me get a little closer to that so you can see how it looks in the virtual position. I'm trying to do a balance between what's the virtual viewing as well as the photographic viewing. Is Robert Markovich here? No, I saw him earlier. I thought he was there.
They also had to go. They left a comment. Honored to be in the show. Really interesting work and seeing the work in a virtual environment. Looking forward to seeing all of the work in person.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I hope those of you who remain are enjoying what how often do we get to do this where you get to talk to one another and talk about art for a lengthy time. So this work is Christopher Leach. Are you here, Christopher? I think that there's some interesting thought in the choice of this. Is the text is by Oklahoma poet Larry Bierman and is excerpted from his 1992 chapbook of the same name. Okay. And I don't believe I saw Pasquale here. Is Pasquale here? Pasquale Arriaga, are you here? And this is clearly how he feels about 2020. It's called Ouch. Okay. We start getting into some COVID-based work as well. Is Karen Whitman here?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to speak about your work?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This piece is called Corona Cash, and it's a departure from what I normally do. I normally do cityscapes in linoleum cut, but with all the information coming in about COVID when it first started, it was just really permeating my consciousness, and I just felt the need to make a statement about the pandemic. And this obviously is based on the $1 bill. It's the image area is 10.5 by 23 3/4. And it was especially useful to make it based on the $1 bill to emphasize the unity that we need to have to altogether eradicate the pandemic. I have some references here. Are you able to see my pointer when I
No,
probably
let me,
can't. No, no.
let me, I
But,
can, I can share remote control with you. It's
Yeah.
Karen Whitman, correct?
Yes.
There you go. You should be able to now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was able to, well, here we have, you know, George Washington here in his mask and his hospital gown. But rather than it saying George Washington beneath him, it's could be you or me. And so, and, you know, instead of it saying the United States of America at the top of the bill, it says the United Globe for Health. And instead of it saying Federal Reserve note at the top, it says give without reservation note. And, you know, I'm talking about, you know, us all, that we're all in it together. On the left of the center piece of George Washington, cooperation is the key. We're all in this together. And on the opposite side, one world effort, where it normally says one on the $1 bill, act now, don't wait. And again, emphasizing the unity, e pluribus unum on the upper right-hand one. And on the opposite upper left side, one cause. And so, oh, and also on the left side here, it says this note is to be used only for masks, gloves, ventilators, and corona relief and research, which is based on what it says on a $1 bill about this being, you know, legal tender for all transactions, or however it's worded, healing, caring. And it occurred to me when I was still working on it that I hadn't thanked everybody that needed to be thanked for their efforts in trying to eradicate the virus. And I still had room in the border, which would normally be the white border of the bill, to thank various people, as in the scientists and researchers way over on the left, and the essential workers and medical people on the right, the health workers. Let's take care of each other. Let's share ideas and resources. Let's be compassionate and kind. And at the bottom, a message to flatten the curve, protect your neighbor, and to thank everyone for staying home. So I was just, you know, hoping that this would be, you know, a piece to unify everybody, to say that we're all in this together and that we can all fight this together, and that everybody doing their part should be thanked for it. And hopefully it'll inspire some monetary generosity on the part of people to help donate, you know, either monetarily or in other ways to help eradicate it. Oh, and on the bottom right here, where it normally says Secretary of the Treasury, I have Secretary of Health and Wealth, signed Health is Wealth. And Treasurer of Humankind, all the world's people on the other side. Oh, and this is on the left side, this giant wheel type thing with the hands reaching up. That's a coronavirus itself. with a
Which
band sign on it.
Usually is that symbol, yeah, of the symbol that is on all of the bills.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so that's Corona Cash. It's a linoleum cut. And by the way, I have made a video about this that you can see on YouTube. It's called Karen Whitman's Corona Cash, a block print for the pandemic. So if you look up Corona Cash alone, you'd probably find it. And it's 9.5 minutes, and it shows the whole process of how I made it as a linoleum cut and all the thought that went behind it. And,
Okay, wonderful.
you know, my other work, which are, you know, is cityscapes. If you want to see how it's a departure from there, it's just KarenWhitman.net. In fact, this piece is on there as well under COVID-19 art.
Okay,
So
Thank
there
you.
you have it.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, is Carol Lissy here? Lissy. This is also Corona related with the use of the masks. And there are words here that said each of us has a name. Given by God, given by, sorry, I'm trying to read. Given by our desires, by our death. Okay. COVID did have an impact over this last year. There's another piece here, again by Pascal Arriaga, who is former military. He's been on in the show many times, and often references, you know, military subject matter and criticisms of the United, you know, how the government has gotten us in wars, and how, you know, former military or veterans are dealt with. And of course, you know, the addiction that has, you know, permeated a lot of different people who have suffered, you know, are suffering PTSD. Okay. And I think we'll go ahead and this is sort of the addiction section. This piece is quite wonderful as well. And you can see it very, very, very clever. Is the artist here, is Shoko Tanaka here? So it's clearly dealing with the opioid epidemic and how much we are relying on using pills and medications to get by, to deal with pain or deal with anxiety or other issues. And, you know, how much that, and a lot of the pills, just, you know, where's the text? Well, a lot of the pills have symbols and letters on them, as oftentimes they do, or numbers, as that pills often do.
That's great.
A really fun and really great poignant piece. All right, sorry, we skipped over these, not intentionally. I was just in a weird place to come back. I want to make sure that we cover these three pieces. Is Carl St. Alma here? This is also political, dealing with speaking truth to power. She's not here. Monica, you had spoken about your exhausted piece earlier. Are you still here to talk about this one?
I am still here.
Okay, thank you for staying.
Wow, I haven't seen this one in a long time. It's another piece. I'm trying to like read the things I put on there. It's hard for me to read from here. I should have brought it in. Oh, that's right. This is, sorry, it's been a while and a long week and a long day. So, also about the pandemic and fear. And what's interesting is when I did this piece, the wooden pieces that create the box that the figure is in, I hadn't added that yet, and it felt so vulnerable and uncomfortable and still full of fear. And then I was like, well, what does this need? I'm also an art therapist, by the way, so this kind of thinking is natural for me to like, all right, this feels uncomfortable. I need to do something to make it feel better. And so I put the wooden pieces in, and it was like, okay, those are the barriers it needed. Now I feel I can breathe within that context. And the doorbell is very much, you know, we have a sign on our door that says, you know, please don't come in. We have an immune compromised person here, or leave things at the, you know, because of my daughter. And, you know, people would ring the doorbell and like, aren't they reading the sign? So just you know, wondering, and this was done, you know, when it looked like there was a vaccine and maybe there was an end in sight, which now it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But my overriding thought was, well, am I going to want to go back out? Am I going to, a lot of people are like, what are the first thing you're going to do when it's over? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to want to go back out. I'm very introverted. I'm used to being inside. I'm kind of afraid. I'm okay in here. So it was mostly about the mixed feelings I was having about what am I going to feel like? Are people going to ring the doorbell? Am I going to invite them in again? I still haven't. We still go around the back.
It's interesting that you're talking about this, because I do wonder how much our society and the world is going to be affected in the long term. I can't remember the term for it, but the phobia of being around people or being outside is actually a real thing. And, I've heard about it, I think a lot of us have heard about that there are some people that just can't be outside or can't be around other people. And, I wonder how much of that is actually going to affect, a certain part of the population, I imagine, will be affected by that in some way.
Yeah, definitely. My son, who has, he's autistic, and he's 26, and he's barely, it's interesting because my daughter, who has a severe immune disorder, is more willing to put on a mask and be in public places than he is. So a lot of it is, there's just this emotional collective trauma that we have all gone through, and it affects us all in very different ways depending on the trauma of our past and what is it re-traumatizing, what is it triggering. And so that's what this one is about, is how am I going to feel when it's over. And now I feel like, how are we going to know when it's over?
Right. I think that, it's not like it's going to happen from one day to the next. It's going to be very gradual. And I think the scary part is, how gradual.
Right. And then when we have the Delta variant and these other variants, like how we're going to react, it's this fluid process, and the not knowing exactly, like, I like to know things. I like rules. I like times and structure, which is why I needed to put that extra boundary on it, because then I feel safe within those confines. And the rules keep changing because the virus changes. The virus enjoys that lack of structure, and it's like, well, do we even know, when do we consider it over? Right? So, and then when it is, what do we do? So that's what that was all about.
And the other thing about the virus is it's going to continue until, as long as it has a host to land on. As long as we give it a host to land on it, it will find a way. It is a creature, in a sense, that is, and that's a scary thought. Again, I think that's where we have to take control by doing the right things to try to eliminate and not give it a host. And
right.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
It's trying to survive.
It is trying to survive.
But, it's also trying to survive. So we have to make choices.
And it's starting to go after our children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I have one child, my son that's autistic, has autoimmune issues. And then my daughter has this rare immune deficiency where she has to get infusions and things like that. She can't fight things on her own. So, it's like we're sacrificing the most vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you
for bringing my soapbox aside now.
Thank you so much for your commentary. And Chess, you're next. Chess is also in a group show called Black, White, and Shades of Gray that I'm doing in the spring with Mariona and 8 other artists. So are you ready, Chess? I know that you're here. I see you.
All right. Yeah, I'm here. Wonderful show. Thanks for having me. And this piece, you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this piece was my reaction to a week of being exposed to COVID on a daily basis. We treat people with severe psychosis, and they had coronavirus, and many of our staff did as well. And I felt very fractured and tired. And this was my reaction to it.
Mm. Mm. I did, I did not realize that I put two professionals next to one another that are dealing with, I mean, I knew that the subject matter was connected, but I did not realize. What is it that you said you do?
I'm a psychotherapist.
And I
treat-
put you next to a another therapist there. So I did not know that. How interesting is that? So, wow.
Right.
Definitely a commonality between you. Well, thank you so much. Did anybody have any questions for Chess? Do you have anything more you wanted to add? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's pretty much it. Time is running out. Thanks for the show. It was a great experience.
Thank you, Chess, and thank you for participating again this year. And we'll look forward to seeing your work in the other show that we're doing in the spring. Okay, so back to our area that is dealing with addiction and other forms of addiction. I know that Julianne was here a little while ago. Is she still here? Julianne Johnson. I know she was here at the beginning. I said hello to her, I remember. So her sculpture is dealing with cocaine addiction. And much like we're dealing with, the opioid epidemic and the alcohol epidemic, her work is with those as well. So I'm going to come back to this wall a little bit later and finish up this section and go in this direction. Let me see, I have this piece over here on the wall. Jeff Downing, are you here to talk about your work? I believe Jeff was here earlier. Don't believe he's here now. Okay, so we're just gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and skip. Stephen Horn, I do not see Stephen here either. I'll enlarge the image. All of these dealing also with COVID. Oh, and I believe this one, sorry, I'll put up the artist statement. It's Shikata Ganai, which means it can't be helped. And that's what his subject matter is about, is a bit of sort of believe surrendering to the things around us. Anne Bingham Freeman, is anyone from Anne's family here? I don't know if Anne has been in the show for many years, and when I first started, she was part of a group show that we did, dealing with artists that were using organic methods to create their work, or stylings to create their work. Anne sadly passed away this last year, and she was dealing with heart issues and weight issues and diabetes issues. So this particular work is dealing with that. It's called Heart Surgeon, and her family asked if she could posthumously participate this year, and I said absolutely. So this is just a wonderful way to say goodbye, I think, to Anne and her years of participating in Ink and Clay. This piece here is Mick Schoon here. Mick Schoon is dealing with another health consideration, which is diabetes. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go
Hey.
ahead and speak about your work, and I'm just going to coast around it so people can see both sides.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so mine is about the monetary side effects of having type 1 diabetes for the last 20 years. And this piece is all clay, coil built, with a bunch of slips, and I do like an image transfer technique to get all those typography, like the high and the 451, which is the typography from my glucoscan, which checks my blood sugars. And there is a bit of dark humor in this, like on the lower left-hand side, there's like a leg that has like a price tag that says leg on it. And this is an insulin bottle up in the hand that's like this. That's one of my insulin bottles that I slip cast and put a gold overglaze over it. So yeah,
here as well. I'm putting little arrows. As
Oh
you
no,
speak.
that's good. That's all good. And then the one that's directly above the eyebrows, that is the price of my monthly for all my supplies is $1,205.50.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
know,
it's
I don't think that's something people, I mean, I know that medical conditions are expensive, but you
yeah,
never, yeah, but to actually put a number on it like that,
it's
that's
crazy.
meaningful, very meaningful.
And then the overall aesthetic that I used was like this cartoony style. And I use that because when I was a kid in the early 2000s, the pharmaceutical companies kept using these like cartoons. And then like 5 seconds later, they'd have this like auctioneer type guy just saying all the side effects really quickly. And it was like so scary, but like so weird.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all heard those side effects and one kind of wonder, is it really worth it?
Yeah. And like having a chronic illness, it was just kind of scary because like you're taking an RX and you see all these other RXs that are like, oh, death and possible kidney failure, and you're like, whoa, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's, the consequences of the medications is something that I think, are they making us better or worse? And
right.
you have to wonder. Okay, I know that Ryan wasn't here for his previous work that we saw at the beginning. This is called Innocence. Are you here, Ryan, now? Is Ryan here? Okay, you can all get a little glimpse there. It's a hanging sculpture.
Okay.
All right, and then Michael Paida, are you here? This section starts to get a little bit solemn, dealing with death and loss. This particular one is called Exit. And since he's not here, I'm just going to keep going just for the sake of everyone else. All right, and then is this Kate Francis? Kate Francis, are you here to talk about your work? This is like almost like a funerary vessel, and there's writings like narrative. Are you here to talk about that? Okay. It's called Never Again. All right. And if anybody is interested in, of course, reading more about each artist, for any of those that we're like going kind of a little fast on, if you go to our website, which I was going to ask one of my staffers, Mac, can you put the website, Mac or Molly, put the website in the chat so that you'll see that on the website, there's 2 websites and both of them have all of the artworks and the artist statements listed. So it's a little bit like an online gallery if you miss anything here. Kathy, you still here? Do you want to talk about this? It's also about Manzanar, right?
Yes, I'll just quickly say this is a replica of an actual sort of monument. It's called Consoling Souls. That's at the cemetery in Manzanar. And I was kind of struck that there was still a headstone for a baby. And so this is kind of like dedicated to baby Jerry, who I'm not sure if they interned in, but his headstone's still there. And I thought how sad it is that he's going to spend the rest of his time here. So I wanted to dedicate it to him. He's now turned into a Ojizo, which is like a Buddhist guardian of children. And he's sitting on a lotus petal and he's transformed and he can now leave the cemetery at Manzanar. So that's kind of what it's about.
Really nice. And I was doing a little research myself to better understand this work as well. And that monument is there. That monument is I assume permanent structure, and it's just a forever remembrance of that place.
Yes, and every year they have a pilgrimage, which people go and they have religious ceremonies and people speak and they make it into a weekend of remembrance.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us as well. Okay, I want to make sure I haven't missed anyone before I go into the next one. Okay, and Barbara Wydell, are you here? this piece, what I was reading about it was that it's very much in the style. If you think of art history, it's kind of a little bit like a reliquary. It's a collection of little objects that are remembrances of the people, a person that has passed. And it has, it has a kind of an ancient, quality to it, ancient art quality to it. Okay. See it up close a little bit more there. Okay, so let's move on. Since that artist isn't here, I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. And thank you all for those of you who are in this back section. I apologize. I'm sorry that you're waiting. You're having to wait so long, but I hope it's worth it to everyone.
Yeah.
Is Gail Miles here?
I am.
Oh, let's talk about your work.
Yeah. So this is, I'm a linguist and I'm a bluegrass musician and my family's bluegrass. And I've been starting to put text on my work, the bluegrass lyrics, these old bluegrass songs. And bluegrass, first of all, I don't want the text to be horizontal. I used to put text horizontal and I would see people read it. And I didn't want people to read it. I kind of just want the visual of the text. And I spent a long time in Japan where they write vertically. And so I always really loved that. And then these bluegrass, bluegrass music has a long and varied history and sometimes a difficult history because it stole from maybe the African American, there's just a whole thing going on in the bluegrass world about where it came from. And so the history is sort of dark, but the songs and the music itself is very light and banjo and happy and dancey. And so I feel like this work it kind of brings in both in especially the other piece. It's called Dancing Across the Sunny Side. It's sort of as a figure that sort of dances across, but it's also a little bit, I don't know.
I'm gonna go to that one.
Yeah.
Well. Here, let's talk about that one too at the same time.
Yeah. So it's sort of, the work just sort of feels to me, or I'm trying to make it sort of reflect both, but also reflect my linguistic background of my love of words. So that's really all I have to say about it. The forms start, I don't know where they're going to go really. They start out, I make those bottoms with paper towel rolls and jars, and then I coil build up, and it's a really deep, rich, dark clay that I put a porcelain slip over, and then I apply these words to it.
So I'm curious about the form. Is
Yeah.
there any? You indicated that you use like certain supports or objects to help form it. Was there? You said it's kind of just automatic, then subconscious. How you create the form, because people have interpreted this. Some of my staff have called it by a loving name, and I'm just curious if the shape or form was any representative of anything in particular.
No, sometimes it looks like a torso or shoulders. I'm not quite. What was the word that they used? I'm curious.
It looked like an elephant.
Oh, an elephant. Yeah, well, they do have an animalistic. Yeah, they do. They are sort of animalistic without heads. And the heads sometimes become the flowers in them. And I see the trunk, and they're not supposed to be animals, but they do sort of grow in a way that I'm not quite sure where they're going to end. I don't know where the shoulder's going to end. I don't know where that circle's going to go. And I'm in my studio sort of hiding away from the world.
Well, very, very instinctual then on your part, because it is successful. It's quite eye-catching. And do you use it as a vase?
I do. I use them as vases, and I use them sometimes, sometimes not as vases. And I like to, I like both ways. I don't really want to call it a vase, but I like the idea of putting something soft in it, because they are kind of, have a hardness to them because they are clay. And then the script, I just sort of pick the script and I make transfers out of it, the font, and I use different fonts, and depending on how the form ends up.
I'm going to ask a question to one of my staffers, Molly. When you were you the one that created this object, or was it one of the other staff?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, and did you happen to have all 4 sides, or did the artist provide you with a 3D scan for this?
No, I think there was no 3D scan. I just kind of made it from the pictures.
So you actually created the object digitally to be able to follow the shape that she had created. Because notice how this one doesn't disappear when I go around it, how a lot of the other 3-dimensional pieces like kind of get broken up because we only had flat images. So you actually, in Rhinoceros, which is a software program, you created a 3-dimensional copy of the work then in that case, right?
Yeah, so some of them were kind of impossible to create this 3D shape, so I just went with the flat images. But some of them looked like I could kind of create something similar enough to the real thing. So I tried to.
You did an amazing job. That's beautiful.
I wanted to ask the artist what she thought, because, you know, basically it's Molly is recreating your work in a digital format. So it's not, you know, because notice that we don't have these flat pictures popping up in this particular case.
Yeah, no, she did a beautiful job. It's amazing. It's really beautiful. And you can tell because the sides are the text on the sides is sort of enlarged, which in real life it's not. It looks like the bigger sides.
Okay, so that got stretched out perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just.
But I kind of like that actually.
Well, that's what we were, you know, that's what it's a very touchy subject, because it's, you know, we want to maintain the authenticity and integrity of the artist's work, but then we're also trying to represent it well digitally in this format, which, you know, again, it has its challenges. So I want to ask an artist if they are okay with that.
It looks gorgeous. It's the text is different, although I'm actually really enjoying that because I don't know if I could do that, but the text is different, but the actual shape is
spot
perfect.
on.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
it's
All
really
right.
great.
All right, and one of our other students, I'm going to move on to this one, and I don't
Thank
think
you.
Nancy Schreiber, thank you so much for being here. I don't think Nancy Schreiber Smith is here, is she? She's a friend of mine from long, long ago. We both used to teach at Fullerton College together, and I think she still does. She created this piece. I'm going to enlarge it there so you could see all sides. But one of my students, Grace, I believe, right, Molly, created the virtual version of it. And she also went and spent a lot of time recreating this work in the real 3-dimensional format. So you can see it's the photograph. Honestly, I think the photographs are just a little less colorful. And then this appears a little bit more colorful. I'm trying to get around it somehow and have you see the back and how that was. You could see a little bit of that virtualness of the book is sort of has a break in it there, but all the shells and the textures and everything. The student worked on this really hard to really try to make it look as close to reality as possible. So Nancy is not here, but she often will do found books and create an assemblage with them. And in this case, she plays off of the idea of the octopus, this book with the title Octopus, and does this glass painting that she manipulates on the edge, on the open edge of the book. And of course, then also added these other elements as well. The fun thing, some fun facts about the octopus. This is starting to get into more of our environmental concerns section of the show. And some fun facts about octopi. Well, I just said the wrong thing. The octopus does not have tentacles, they have arms. The plural of octopus is not octopi, the plural is octopod. And because they have no skeleton, they manage to fit themselves into tiny holes or crevices. And octopus ink is toxic even to the octopus itself. I did not know that. I don't know how many of you did, but anyway, just some fun facts. So I hope this artist is here. Sherry Katowski, actually Sarit Katowski. I'm sorry that your name was not able to be corrected in time. Are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. Please talk about your work.
This piece is called Sacred Trust Broken. And sacred trust comes from a lot of philosophies and religions that believe that the land is sacred and that it's entrusted to us to take care of it. And that's why it says broken. And it talks about a lot about all of the sites in New Mexico that are radioactive from the toxic waste that comes from the nuclear industry, which we're the only state in this particular union that is a cradle to grave site for nuclear weapons production and development and disposal. And so I used a map because everybody likes to look at maps. And the purpose of this whole piece is educational. I want people to understand the implications of and the extent of nuclear weapons. And I wanted to make it really simple for people to understand. I have a background in environmental science and have worked for over a decade on bringing the community into their own backyard, which is contaminated with radioactivity. And so as you can see on the map, all of the little clusters are where nuclear weapons or disposal or radioactivity is in New Mexico. And that includes the whole WIP route where they transport nuclear waste down to the WIP site. And then in the large plume in the middle, which is actually green, that's where the Trinity test took place, which is the testing of the first nuclear bomb. And people forget that this country bombed their own country first before they bombed Hiroshima. It was an experiment. And if you look on the right side, the greenware to the right is called Trinity testware, not food safe. And on the other side.
Sorry, you said right. That's why I wasn't sure. Did you mean left?
Green.
You know what? I have the same problem. Trust me. I often will do left, right instead of left. All right. So you meant this one, right?
Yeah, that one. And that exemplifies what they call trinitite, which is what happened to the crater when they exploded the bomb. It melted the sand and turned it to glass. And I also thought it was really interesting when I was researching how to make a glaze that looked like that, and that I used iron to make the green. And the reason the trinitite, which is what they call the glass that was formed, it's because there's so much iron in the sand, and that's how the Japanese or the Chinese developed the Celadon glazes. And so there is a correlation with the ceramics. And then the dinnerware set on the other side is called Let Them Eat Yellow Cake Ware. And it exemplifies the mining and milling of the raw material of uranium in New Mexico and in other places in the world. But, you know, I wanted to focus on my own backyard. I've worked with many community groups talking about these issues. And the reason I did this piece was because I wanted it to make it really easy to understand the pathway to exposure. And most commonly, the environments are so contaminated with plutonium from the bomb tests, from uranium, from the mines and the mills. It gets into the soil, to the water, to the air. And so the greatest pathway is ingestion. And everybody eats and drinks. So anyway, it's an educational piece.
Very interesting. Thank you. It's quite dramatic and poignant look
I
at.
have a question about the difference between the yellow and the green. Were there different, are those representing different of the pottery, the glaze that you used? Are they, oh, there's the thingy, the description. Are they, is it about two different areas, the yellow and the
The
green?
yellow is the mining sites, the mining and milling, or the mining sites are in western New Mexico and into Utah and Arizona. And when they mill, okay, so that's where they mine it and take it out of the ground. They transport it to a facility down south and they mill it. And the result is the uranium, that's the color of the uranium after it's milled. And they call it yellow cake.
Wow.
And so the sites are not only contaminated, but the indigenous people in the western part of New Mexico are also highly contaminated because both of these groups, the miners and the people at the Trinity site, they're communities that are sustainable communities, subsistence communities. And so they live on the land. They live very close to the earth. They grow their own food. They use their own water because it's a semi-arid area, semi-arid to arid areas where they use cisterns to catch water. And so they're using the water multiple times to wash, to rinse their vegetables, to drink, to wash their dishes, wash their clothes. And so it permeates the whole family. And I did write a really long artist statement because it's an educational tool.
Yeah, no, I think, I always like seeing a lot written because I feel that when you have a lot written, it means that you really know what you're talking about. Not always, but most people, like, they've done the research, and that's why they have so much to indicate. And I always think of curatorially, I know that they say the rule is nobody reads more than 100 to 200 words, in a setting like this. But I always say, well, it's there. If you want it, you read it. If not, you enjoy looking at the work, instead. So, but if you want to know more, it's good to always have that. So I understand. I don't blame you.
And I've shown these pieces in several places, and people are drawn to the map, but they also ask questions about the wear because the surfaces are really fascinating.
They are. They're really unique.
Thank you so much for
thank you
including me in the show. The whole show is just beautiful.
It really is. It really is.
Doing the virtual tour was really fun. It was
Thank you. And I'm happy to say that with 100 works, it's not overcrowded either. It feels like there's the space. Everything has its space that it needs. So yeah, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Is Connie Major here? I know she was oops. Uh-oh. There we go.
I'm here.
Okay, would you like to say something about your work?
So also an environmental piece.
Yeah.
Closing in on the 11th hour, you can see the world in the middle surrounded by a clock. And the black sheet is closing in with the zipper. So if we don't do something, we're going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's very direct to the point.
To the point. I mean, it can cover everything about the environment. Also, I put a peace symbol on the zipper fob.
Yeah.
Because war is another big part of it.
Yeah.
So the letters that I use to stamp those numbers are wood-backed letters that were used in typesetting. And so when I pressed them in, I was actually getting old ink into the clay. But that burns away. This is cone 10 that's hotter than a volcano. The cone 10 ceramic pieces have been taken up to. So the ink is burned away. The silver zipper is actually silver, but it's through the clay ceramic process. It's a luster, silver luster. So this piece has been fired numerous times, and to get the luster to be there, it's fired very low temperature. Oh, only like 1900 degrees instead of 2400.
Wow.
The clay the process of doing ceramics is really traumatic to the material we use and stressful. So when we get a good piece, it's always a celebration when you open up the kiln and find it looking like what you want.
Thank you. I mean, and it's humorous too. It's light as well. I mean, it's, you know, I guess anyone can interpret it however they want, but I kind of it's sadly funny. You know, I don't know how else to say it.
So I had to make a lot of specific little tools too to be able to make that zipper look like a zipper. To
fantastic.
Cut the clay just right. And I threw the big plate. I was doing a plate series since 2017, making 17-inch plates. There's a lot of shrinkage that happens in ceramics from the heat, but making 17-inch plates. And then this one, I cut out the middle and made a slab with a slight arc in it for the earth. And then another slab placing on top to be the blanket that's closing in, or the material that's closing in. So a lot of manipulation here on top of what I had.
That's how you can get that like layered dimensionality to it too, even though it is flat, relatively flat. It has a lot of dimensionality because of the method that you've used. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Sorry, it must be a little glitch in the
keeps clicking away. Yeah.
Well, no, it keeps going to a different artwork for some reason. Even though I'm clicking on yours, but okay. All right. Well, any questions? Any other questions there? Go ahead and move on to Sarah Bryant. Are you still there? This has to do with the environment as well. Not sure I see her. It's called "I Have Set My Hand Against the Tide." It has to do with the changing in the tides. Okay, I don't know what happened here. There we go. Is Joanne Donnelly here? Somehow we have another little glitch in this particular section, so I apologize for that. We'll be able to fix that. Is Joanne Donnelly here? We've got two or three things happening. I think there's a links missing to that image. Red Sunset, again, also dealing with the environment. It doesn't sound like she's here either, so we'll make sure to fix that, or you can look at it also online. Bob Alexander, are you still here? I know Bob was here earlier, and I'm sorry that things have taken so long, but thank you all for still sticking around. This is Bob's work. He's dealing a lot with mapping in the city environment and urban and regional planning. His work uses tools and media from an era where architectural and design representation were exclusively analog. These tools previously used to produce the designs for buildings, furniture, and other objects are collaged with magazine pages and ads that once delivered a message that defined good design for professionals. Well, and now, similar to Sarah's work, kind of taking the old manuals. And what do you do with all these old manuals, especially when you don't necessarily, when things have evolved and some of those things are not the case anymore. His work scrambles and misuses elements found in these places to express alternative universes, typographies, landscapes, and scenes. It's quite a lovely work. And Bob Alexander is a faculty member in our architecture department. And the second work by him, similar, same concept, just a similar, different piece. Okay. I hope I did him justice. Sarah Bryant, again, we just passed her. There's a video that's similar to the piece that was in the front gallery. She has a video, and unfortunately, it looks like I guess you don't hear the sound, even though I am trying to share computer sound. I guess no one's hearing that. Okay, so you could see how the pages are moving and animated. You could see some of her illustrations or her prints combined with, she has quite a long explanation. It's called The Radiant Republic. It's an artist's book about ethics and urban planning. This section here is about, again, the environment and the urban environment. The text at the core of the project is city building narrative comprised entirely of language exerted from Plato's Republic and Le Corbusier's The Radiant City. In these original texts, separated by more than 2,000 years, Plato and Le Corbusier each describe city plans which prescribe morality and ethics. These works are revered, but they also are deeply troubling, advocating the destruction of existing cities and the separation of children from their families and the connection between city planning and warfare. Let's see some additional pieces there. Okay. There are just a few more pieces, if everyone can just please hang on. Then we can get to the awards. Susan Sidebottom, who did the trompe l'oeil work in the front of the gallery. Are you still here? Suzanne?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
No worries.
This piece is it's the same but different. There's just a typical box, stamps and whatnot, but I decided that I would make the image that the puzzle is there. I didn't just put different colors of clay on. And those people that are clay people, you will appreciate this. That's a 12 by 18 sheet of clay that I brushed all those images on to equal the one that's on the top of the box in less than an hour, and then cut it out, and it's almost 100 pieces. I lost 2 pieces, but you can put the puzzle together except for those 2 pieces.
Wow, that's incredible. I wondered about that. That's really, that's important.
And this was part of a local show that had to do with COVID and what people were doing. And lots of people were working puzzles and everything. And probably in a different given time and place, I would not have tried to make that piece and put that puzzle together, because there won't be another one of those.
You mean you won't do this type of work again?
No, I mean, I won't be crazy enough to try and put that image on a piece of clay while it's still wet and try and cut it out.
Oh, I see, I see.
It was sort of a death wish. And so I wouldn't do that again, but I like the piece a lot. So I was glad that I did it, but it was difficult. And I'm not a 2D person, so and that's a figurative piece too, and that's really bad for me to do, or hard rather.
Well, the fact that you had to do the image twice too.
Yes.
In 2 different sizes. Okay, that's wonderful, wonderful work. Okay, and Diane Doublebess, your turn. Thank you for being so patient.
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Yeah. Would you like to say a few words about your piece?
Yes, I'll try to be quick. After listening to all the disasters of the day, the year, the decade, and so forth, I think I'm sort of pleased that I put in this piece, which says, "Peace is your nature." It seems to be going diametrically opposite to what many of the other messages are, but maybe it will serve a kind of soothing, peaceful role. I will say that I tried to add a little variety in the angles of the little arms, extending from the axis, and which gives it a sense of rotation. I think the words could be, yeah, they sort of rotate, and they could also be sort of slightly moving up or down because the letters at the top are a little larger than the ones at the bottom. But otherwise, it's very simple technique. It's simply pencil drawing. And yeah, so yeah, the piece itself is on a very heavy weight. I think, well, 300 weight piece of paper. It's called Indian Village rag paper. And I love it because it's a natural decal edge, and which is a contrast to the otherwise sharp-edged arms going around the axial line.
Right.
Yeah.
You're playing with the contrasts of light and dark, but also the contrast of texture and you know shape
Yeah.
the geometry versus the organic edges that are
Yeah.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And you know, I should have ended with this piece, but you know, I'm sorry, I accidentally I meant to do that because I felt like it is sort of like where we should probably go to. You know, the it would have been a nice way to end. However, I forgot about these pieces over here, and I didn't mean to. Not forget. I didn't forget. It was just more that I just accidentally went to yours first. But we'll talk about these last three, and I think Connie, if you're still there, you could talk about your. This is you all did the one with the clock earlier and the earth being zipped up, and this is your work as well.
Yes, this is another one of my large plates that I wanted to have something happening to. And you may think, too bad you don't have a real close up of
I can get as close
ripped
as possible.
area.
Yeah.
Because Arm & Hammer baking soda, Arm & Hammer, good in strength. It's advertising that. And I thought, well, what if somebody ripped the plate and found out it actually was cardboard? So I did a lot of detail work to make that opening look like cardboard, corrugated cardboard.
Yeah,
But there's
we can,
also,
I think we could see it right here, right?
yeah, that's the opening. But, in person, you'll really enjoy it.
Of course.
And also the fact that Arm & Hammer, he went for the strength to open it because this piece is titled Opened with a question mark. You see at the top, there's instructions, open here. And you're supposed to press your thumb in and the cardboard pops open on the perforated line. But whomever, the strong person, decided to rip it open. Just kind of a little fun act.
How we do not follow instructions a lot of times.
Definitely.
We think we know it all. We think we know it all, and we don't need to follow instructions.
Muscle our way through it.
Yeah. So it says a lot about the sign of the current times too. Okay, so let's move on. We got these two more, and then I would like to do the awards if you will all bear with me here. And Karen, are you still here? Karen Carlson. I'll just do a real quick. It's based on this idea of the cookie fortune, speaking to the all too human tendency to rush to the destination without appreciating the journey. At the end of the meal in most Chinese restaurants, it's customary to be presented with a fortune cookie in a thin, sugary, round wafer, folded on itself and holding a tiny slip of paper with printed prediction, warning, or a lucky number. In the rush to get to that fortune, the cookies frequently lie broken and unconsumed on the tabletop. The fact that they have received a free, crunchy, sugary treat is lost on the diners. So again, some of these pieces are a little bit more humorous, some ironic, just dealing with just the ironic human nature that we sometimes deal with. Okay, and the last piece by Andra, who I know isn't here because she wasn't here earlier and I don't see her in here, dealing with NFT. This is a very new concept, non-fungible, but here in this case, non-fungible touch. And she's dealing with the idea of Braille. And there's again playing with words and irony here. A special note or sign language interpretation. To arrange for sign language interpretation of any public program, please call visitor services. So obviously, if you have certain conditions, you are not necessarily able to do those things. So it's kind of like just playing with the idea of the irony of this with people who are not sighted or who cannot hear. Special note, join us in preserving art for the future. Please do not touch the works of art. Again, if you were blind or you cannot see, you would not be able to read that note. And she plays with the idea of this was conceived while looking at Braille museum brochure. A combination of legible and illegible text framing the selected passages of Braille script seemed conflicting and complementary at the same time. Again, leading to the ironic tendency of the words there. Again, I had intended to move from that direction to this direction and deal with the pieces of peace, and the piece is Your Nature by Diane as a way of ending the show, the virtual exhibition. I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I did, please speak up, or if anyone got missed, please let me know.